Like when I started,
point is that women keep getting
I got
judged.
absolutely terrorised.
She's not letting anyone else
You've
talk.
not done this either. I got absolutely terrorised when I first started live reporting because people said I knew nothing about football.
See what she's done there? Me. If you look at her Instagram, it's the same thing. Hey, welcome back to my channel. It's Christine Grace, and today is another reaction video. As you all know, Pearl was back on Talk TV being interviewed by Piers Morgan. It wasn't a one-on-one. They were discussing a tweet made by a former football player named Joey Barton. If you're in the UK, you've probably heard of Joey Barton already because he is known for having some quite controversial takes. I don't know too much about him because when he was actually in football, I was very small, so I don't know too much, but I know that his name is a bit of a controversial one. So yeah, I'm going to be reacting to the panel that Pearl was on. We actually watched it live, but it's been a couple of weeks now, so it'd be good to react to it, especially now that I've actually met Joey Barton. So yeah, I've got a better idea of who he is, at least now. Be sure to like the video on your way in and let's check it out.
Joey Barton's given a defence of his views about female pundits in football. So are female pundits qualified to talk about the men's game? Well, I've got some women here who would like to respond. And they are Bianca Westwood, who was the first ever female football reporter for Soccer Saturday. Pearl Davis is a YouTubing anti-feminist. And Kate Bullseye is a co-founder and presenter of the Offside Rule.
I love how they mentioned that she's a YouTuber, she's an anti-feminist, all of this, basically making it seem like, why the hell is she there? She's literally an athlete. None of these other women are athletes, so interesting.
And Football 365. All right, let me start with you, Bianca. I'd imagine that you were going slightly nuts as you heard that, but maybe I don't want to speak for you. What is your response?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, usually I wouldn't give those kinds of opinions any particular credence, but the way in which he tweeted, especially calling out the young girl, the vlogger from Manchester City, I just thought it was out of order because I've been on the wrong end of dogs abuse when I very first started reporting, and it didn't sit well with me. This is a young girl. She's on social media. She's not presenting Newsnight. She's not saying she's an expert in football. She's there because viewers of football are changing. We're getting more streamers. We're getting more influencers. And that's a different argument entirely. So that's particularly the reason why I didn't like what he said. But who is qualified to speak on football then? Because I've been watching the game for over 40 years. My first game at West Ham was before Joey Barton.
She's a West Ham fan. Oh, do you know how much that breaks my heart? I have to share a team with this woman.
For over 40 years. My first game at West Ham was before Joey Barton was even born. I've been watching the game the whole time. I've watched hours and hours and hours of football. I worked behind the scenes at Sky for 10 years before I was even given a shot on camera, watching many of my male colleagues who were probably not always as good as I was, getting chances that I was never given. So I don't really understand exactly what you need to know. How long do we need to work in the game behind the scenes before we're allowed on camera? To be a pundit, you know, the laws are the same. I can read a game of football. Emma Hayes, Serena Wiegman can both read games of football. Are you saying that they can't provide insight? It sounds to me like Joey's got a problem with particular...
She just goes on and on and on and on.
...female pundits who, to his knowledge, haven't done enough in the game. But how does he know? And how do we quantify and qualify that? Because there are EFL players who are commenting, co-coms, being pundits on Champions League games. What level do you have to get to before you're allowed, as far as Joey Barton is concerned, to be able to be a pundit on the men's game?
Well, that's it. Yeah, that's a good question. Let me bring in Kate. Kate, what is your response to Joey Barton?
I think it's really clear that Joey doesn't appreciate that women can study journalism too, and they can study sports journalism. And if you're Bianca Westwood...
If Joey Barton didn't know that women can study journalism and women can contribute to journalism, well, you'd think for a start he would say that. But you see how Joey said one thing and then all of these kind of inferences as to what he meant has been made by these two women already. instead of just taking at face value exactly what it is that he's talking about.
You can watch thousands of hours of football and commentate and report into a Sky Sports studio, as she did for decades, on the men's game and be very informed. There has to be something more to this, I think. Look, let's take Alex Scott. Okay, she's got a degree in sports writing and broadcasting. She's played for England 140 times. She played for her club career over 2 decades. How is she not qualified to talk about the game?
She's absolutely qualified to talk about the game. Of course she is. I mean, she definitely knows more about football than I do, and definitely more than any just journalist knows about football. Of course, playing the game helps. Look, would I rather listen to her talk about men's football or a guy with all those same qualifications on men's football? If I wanted to hear on women's football, I'd absolutely much rather hear from the women who've actually played in women's football. I'm not really amazed or impressed, or that's not the right word, because I am impressed, absolutely. I'm not athletic at all, so people's athletic abilities impresses me, man or woman, absolutely. But I'm not particularly entertained by women's football. Yeah, I just prefer watching men's football. But if I was, of course, she would be well qualified to speak on it. And I'd much rather listen to her talk about a women's football game than a bloke, because she's actually done it. She's actually been in it, whereas the men wouldn't have been in it. But I don't know why people get so hurt by this.
Like any other pundit, whether you're talking about Mark Chapman, Jake Humphries, none of them have played the game, but they've done the same as the rest of us. They've studied journalism, they love the game, and they're expressing their learned opinion and assessment on the game. I don't understand why that's so tricky.
Well, Pearl, I can see you rolling your eyes there. You clearly don't agree.
Well, I keep seeing women given special handouts and special treatment. I'm seeing the same thing that he's seeing. One thing you didn't put in my bio is I'm actually a semi-pro athlete. I've been involved in athletics for 20 years. And no, men and women's sports are not the same. Men jump higher, they run faster. So I see where he's coming from. When I was listening to him talk, he was talking about the best person for the job should be the one that gets it. I didn't see anything wrong with what he said.
But some of the women who are getting these jobs are the best women.
I mean, I looked at their Instagrams. They look like influencers. I mean, come on. I don't understand why you
Pearly Kate is an influencer. Bianca, would you call yourself an influencer?
We checked out Bianca's profile. We were watching this live from the studio, me and a few other people in the office. You wouldn't know she was a football commentator going off her Instagram. She does it looks like shopping hauls. Like she's presenting no different from someone like Molly May, some Love Island influencer. She flaunts around on Instagram like she's a 20-year-old girl. So, yeah, it actually is a pretty fair point.
The one girl you guys brought up earlier, I didn't know her, but I've seen women's soccer, football, here I'm in the UK. But women's football, they make it into an agenda, and it becomes a political agenda, and I hate it. It ruins the sanctity of women's sports. Then it just becomes all about this woke nonsense. I agree with him. I think it needs to be the best person for the job.
I think it is the best person for the job.
Right,
and I don't know what kind of problem Joey's got. Is this a woman's problem?
See how they want to bring it all to emotion. Like, Joey's got a problem with women. He hates women. Like, women are just so emotional. It's just so evident, especially in this panel. It's so evident.
I've seen this everywhere.
Joe is saying that his...
Oh, see how this woman's going to now tell everyone what Joey's saying? Anyone going to let Joey speak? Or are we all just going to say that we know what Joey was saying? Or are we going to hear from Joey direct? Oh, but even if we do hear from Joey direct, I can guarantee you these women will tell you what he really meant. What he means is what he says. That's why he says it.
8-9-year-old daughter can never grow up to be a football commentator. Yes.
Why do you guys put words in his mouth?
How is she different? How is she different? If she goes to study journalism,
all right, let me bring
she
Joey
knows
back.
about the game.
Let me bring Joey back because Joey wants to respond to that.
Just like Kelly Cates, how's that different?
All right, Joey's been listening to all this. Joey,
don't
you want to respond, I think.
Good pundits,
well said.
and they don't always
well said.
talk
Look, I take on board everything. I've known Bianca being in and around the game for as long as she has, and she's worked incredibly hard and does a fantastic job. I wouldn't say Bianca's there on tokenism. That's not what I'm. She's worked incredibly hard and has earned that recognition and reward within the industry. But that's not everybody that's in the game on the female commentary side. That's not. And as the lady rightly points out there, she's seen exactly what I've said. This is not sexism. This is saying the best person for the opportunity should get that role. We've seen when an inch has been given in other sports. You know, I think, you know, maybe in your collegiate swimming, we've seen huge problems with Luke Thomas and Riley Gaines, and I don't want to even go into that, but we've got to be careful that we promote the best person for the job, who's worked the hardest to get there. And for me, in the commentary space, the sport that I believe I'm a bona fide expert at, the women haven't reached the level in the commentating and punditry as the men, you know, and they're getting opportunities that restrict the men's opportunities, and that's wrong. We should create a meritocracy. The best who work the hardest with the most ability get on and get better and get rewarded and get recognition.
Let me just say something. I'll come to Bianca. Wait a minute. Time out, everybody. I want to just read back Joey's own words with that first tweet. It wasn't a question of meritocracy. You said women shouldn't be talking with any kind of authority in the men's game. Come on, let's be serious. It's a completely different game. Bianca, there was no meritocracy there. It was all women.
Okay. No. Listen, Bianca, do you think Bianca, can I just ask you a question? And I respect your opinion massively. Do you think the women's game and the men's game is the same game?
The laws of the game are exactly the same. The same rules apply.
I never asked you that.
Whether it's yellow card, red card, offside. You can read the game. It's still exactly the same. There's 2 goals and 11 players play. And
Bianca,
you can bring
have you ever been tackled at full speed?
It's not about that.
Have you ever been tackled at full speed by a fully grown man and the velocity that involves?
Please look at Piers' face. Look at Piers. He knows this is so funny. He knows Joey is speaking absolute facts. Of course it's a different game. Why is that a problem? Why do we live in this world now where women just want to compete with men? Why? Why do women want to be men so bad?
It doesn't have anything to do with it.
You seem to have changed your opinion, Joey. When you were talking to Piers earlier, you had a problem with women who weren't qualified to talk about the game.
But he's saying
who didn't have a journalistic background to talk about the game. And now you're saying the game's different.
He's saying that
what do you have a problem with?
He's changing his mind. He's changing his mind all the time.
Have you got a problem with the journalistic coverage, or have you got a problem with the playing of the game?
Please don't all talk over each other, Bianca.
You're just shouting at me. I can't hear you.
Being a top player doesn't mean you're going to be a top pundit.
This is becoming a farce.
But not all pundits.
The men's game. I'm here to talk about the men's game.
You're not giving these women a chance. Joey, you're not giving these women a chance.
I'm not getting paid to get shouted at by you. I'm here to have a sensible conversation.
Not everybody is a...
Oh, this is so good. It's so funny to watch Piers' face, because obviously, like, Piers has to present as unbiased, and, you know, he's letting the debate take place. But you can just tell, like, Piers is just a normal bloke at heart. Like, he finds this hilarious. He knows Joey's got a point. He knows Pearl's spot on for recognising the point. But it's entertainment, isn't it?
Consummate broadcaster when they very first start. Did you ever see Gary Neville when he was first on Monday Night Football? He said himself he wasn't brilliant. You have to learn on the job when you're live. You can't learn live television anywhere but live television. That doesn't mean they don't know anything about the game. Maybe they're just not...
Piers is trying so hard not to laugh. That's what I find so entertaining.
Brilliant at broadcasting
his whole point,
yet. When I started,
is that women keep getting
I got absolutely terrorised.
She's not letting anyone else
You've not done this either. I got absolutely terrorised when I first started live reporting because people said I knew nothing about football.
See what she's done there? Me. If you look at her Instagram, it's the same thing.
That wasn't the case. I'd been watching football since I was 6 years old.
We're not talking about
I wasn't a great broadcaster at first.
Well,
that's all.
Hang on.
Maybe these female pundits have to be given a chance.
Now
I get me.
What a legend.
Coming up to me saying how great
I'd like to know from Joey Barton which women are not qualified to do this, because I see some very talented
Joey, you got to give us one name of someone you don't think is up to it.
Really good job.
Piers is just stirring the pot.
And I'd like to know which ones do not deserve
Let's
to
have one name, Joey, before we finish this.
Man City, so he should tell us.
Are you guys
Let me ask Joey, one name, Joey, of someone you don't think is up to it.
One name. Bianca, would you like one name?
One name.
I'm not even going there. I don't have to give you anything. I've come on to have a sensible debate, and you just want to shout at you.
The problem is...
Piers' face just tells you what's going on. If you're silly enough to fall for this Bianca woman's. Let's be honest, she's having a temper tantrum. If you're silly enough to fall for any of this, like, just watch Piers' face. Watch the instigator. It's abundantly clear what's happening here. And Joey has probably saved himself a trap there, because that was a trap from Piers, you know, no doubt. You know, he probably spoke to Joey afterwards and went, look, sorry, mate, I got to make good telly. That was a trap, absolutely. But he's feeding to what the women in the audience are going to want, and what the women, aside from Pearl on the panel, are going to want, which is that personal element. Let's make it personal. Let's make it about people. You know, men are interested in things, women are interested in people. If we can make it personal, then, you know, all emotion can get attached to it, and then we can just blow it way out of proportion.
Sorry, when you
the men's
talk
game-
about...
All right, I've got to leave it there.
When you talk about this...
I've got to leave it there. All I would say,
You're
listen,
inviting-
everyone's entitled to their
you're
opinion. All I would
inviting
listen.
abuse
We've got to leave it there. All I would
misogyny.
say is, I do think Joey's being a bit unfair. If you talk about all women in your tweet, and then you
I believe this is his bosses saying, you know, you got to make sure you stay on the women's side, Piers, because, you know, otherwise you'll get cancelled. You can't be seen to agree with Joey Barton. I bet if you got him in private somewhere for a pint or something at the pub, he'd probably go, yeah, I know, she was a bloody nightmare.
won't name a single woman you actually personally object to, but think it should be a merit.
I can't believe that the women actually, like, fall for this as well. Like, see how Bianca's like, Piers is on my side. No, he's not. He has to be on your side. For the sake of media, he's not on your side. There's no way.
Autocracy. That is a confusing message.
But
And look, I will say also, as I end this, I will say this.
Time.
I will say, no, we've ended the debate. I will say this. There are a lot of men who I saw replying to Joey, and they've replied to us, who agree with it. So this is a debate that probably ought to be aired, and we've had it, and I appreciate you all joining me. So thank you very
They're
much.
entitled.
Well, there you have it. What do you think? Do you think that women should be commentating on men's sports? Do you think that men should be commentating on women's sports? One thing my dad pointed out to me about this particular debate, because this carried on from this debate, this was being spoke about on a lot of other British national television. He said to me, you always see women commenting on the men's sport, but it's not often that you see men commenting on the women's sport. There might be here and there, but the general setup is that you might have quite a few women commenting on the men's football. But then when you go to the women's football, majority of it's women. I just found that interesting. But what do you think? Why don't you let me know in the comments below, and be sure to like this video on your way out. If you haven't already subscribed to the channel, please be sure to do so. Go check out playlists. I got a lot of things going on over there. And I go live every Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday and Friday. So I look forward to seeing you very, very soon.